This is a presentation of BSRN, Box Studios Radio Network. The Power Play Post Show is on the air, covering minor league hockey since 2003, and now covering the Binghamton Black Bears with news, reactions, and in-depth interviews only heard here. And now from the Box Studios in Kirkwood, New York, here is your host of the Power Play Post Show, Bob Howard.
And hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Power Play Post Show. This is the show for September 19th, 2024. This is season 14, episode number 7, and episode number 446 in the long-running podcast that is the Power Play Post Show. Hello, everyone. I am Bob Howard. Thank you very much for joining me. We have a great show planned for you. One that I think is going to be a lot of fun, and one that is going to let you hear from two great people associated with the Binghamton Black Bears. The season is getting so close, folks. We have maybe 3 weeks, and we're going to be into the beginning of the Binghamton Black Bears' fourth season in the FPHL. It's pretty exciting. There are some players that are going to be here since season 1. Tyson Kirkby, Gavin Yates, here since day one. Well, not since day one, but since year one, which is very, very, very cool. So we got a lot planned for you, so I'm going to get right into the must-reads and then get into the topics so we can get you to those interviews, which I think are going to be an excellent listen for all of you. The Power Play Post Show is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, YouTube, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Just search Power Play Post Show on whichever platform you listen to your podcast, and please subscribe. Please join the Power Play Post Show Facebook group. Just go to Facebook and search for Power Play Post Show. We post all of our guest announcements and a lot of other news and information about our coverage of the Binghamton Black Bears. Check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your Binghamton hockey information and curiosity. And on this edition of the Power Play Post Show, owner of the Binghamton Black Bears, Andreas Johansson, had a great, serious conversation with him about the Black Bears, the success and the challenges that are coming up. And then we have our friend and D-man for the Binghamton Black Bears, Dan Wieber, on the show. And I'm really excited for you guys to hear that. Had a little fun in the latter half of it. We do a little bit of a this or that kind of conversation. Sparked some fun little things with Dan. He's a great, great guy. And I've got to be honest with you, most of the players on this team are just phenomenal. All the players are just really great guys, and that's important. So, again, we're going to talk about this. One of the topics I want to talk about is the Black Bears roster outlook, right? Right now we have 24 players signed. You can only have 19, unless they change this, you can only have 19 signed on the roster and 18 that play in the actual game, right? So let's go through this in kind of the order I think that the lines are going to be created. Now, of course, Coach Sherwood can change things up from last year, but I think there's a couple things that are probably going to stay together with the lineup. Obviously there's going to be some changes. We got guys not returning, specifically guys not returning maybe at the beginning of the season. So there's a lot to still kind of cover. And we'll keep covering this as we get closer and even through camp as well here on the Power Play Post Show to keep you informed. So netminders, all right? I think this is pretty simple. Connor McAnanima, Nolan Egbert, and Sam Levecchi, right? We all know this. Jared Levine is going to be coming in and be their goalie coach. And I cannot wait to see another full season of hockey with these three goaltenders and to see what they can do, how they can improve their games. And all three of them, in certain areas, probably can improve their games. I think that there were some nights when Nolan Egbert was really, really good. There was that weekend where he just basically saved the day for the Binghamton Black Bears. And coming in and playing in 3 straight games, especially in a row on a Friday, Saturday, and a Sunday, no other goaltender had to do that for the Binghamton Black Bears last season. And he did that, right? Because Connor had a bad game. And so Nolan came in. Connor had phenomenal games. Sam started off the season with 6 straight wins, right? So they all have positives, but there's also always something they can work on. Let's be honest, Brant Sherwood is not a goalie coach. He doesn't speak goalie. He understands them because, of course, he had to play against goalies and score on goalies. But bringing in Jared Levine is a great plan for the Binghamton Black Bears. So I think this is what I don't know if I'm the most excited about the goaltending, but I'm really excited about the goaltending because I think a second year with these 3 together, and depending how it all works out, and then you get it down to 2 players, this is going to be a really good year, I think, for the Black Bears because they have returning goaltenders. That doesn't always happen in the Fed for every single team, right? Brian Wilson had a phenomenal year. He moves up. Connor didn't want to go up to the SPHL. He can play here, with the Black Bears in the Fed. And if he gets a call up from the ECHL, of course he's going to go and look at that. Absolutely. Who wouldn't, right? But he doesn't necessarily need to go to the SPHL because the FPHL is closer and closer of being on the same level. It's getting there. It's really, really, really close. And it's just a matter of people talking about it on the same level more so than anything else because the play is different, maybe physically versus, having higher skilled skaters and goal scorers maybe down here in the Fed. I realize that it's apples and oranges when you're talking about a physical game and a game where you're talking about skating past somebody instead of hitting somebody. I get that. But either way, let's look at the forwards, okay? So I still think that going into camp, you can probably place on the first line Gavin Yates on the left side, Tyson Kirkby in the middle, and Austin Thompson on the right side. Now, of course, that first line right winger could be won by Blake Tosto, maybe Jamie Bussell, maybe, somebody else. I'm not sure. But I think you have 3 guys that could probably play on that right side on the first line. But I think that coach is probably going to give Austin Thompson that chance to be that guy on the first line. Jamie Bussell, Kyle Stefan, and Blake Tosto is who I have in on the second line. Jamie's got some of that SP experience. He's played with the Black Bears before. Kyle Stefan, we all know what he did last year, playing 17 games and then the 7 games in the playoffs. He will be your second line center at this point, the way I see it. And Blake Tosto, I think, just has really a lot of upside. This is a guy that could play on the second line and score 30 goals. I really think that could happen, right? So let's talk about the third line. I still have in there the three of the guys that were with the Black Bears last year: Cam Clark, Josh Fletcher, and Scott Ramakers. Now, the reason why I have Scott in there is because we've seen him. We saw a little bit of him. We saw him play some. And right now, nobody else has beat him out because none of the other extra forwards have played for the Black Bears. So we haven't seen them in camp yet. So that would be your third line. Now, we're looking for an extra forward, right? Emery Emerson, Caden Henry, Chris Mott, Nick Stuckless, Elliot Van Orsdal. Well, I'll get it right eventually at some point. You have those guys that are possibly playing and trying to win that third line right wing, maybe the left side third line, but they could be playing for that. Those could be now. Granted, Coach Sherwood is not going to come in and go, okay, we've got 9 guys signed that played here last year and they're automatically in. No, they're going to have to play their way in still. That's just the way it's going to be. But you have 5 guys forward-wise. Now, this isn't including any possible signings that they might have before camp starts. We don't know. But this is a good group of forwards that can come together and gel. There might not be too many open positions for these guys to play for, but that just makes their competition even stronger to get maybe 1 or 2 of those spots. So we'll see what happens there. But I think Coach Sherwood has a pretty good plan, has a pretty good eye to really fill in and to have 10 very strong forwards on this team. Now, defenseman-wise, Obviously, your first line is going to be Dakota Bond and Dan Stone. It's just I see it that way. Now, your second line could be a combination of Jesse Anderson and Dan Wieber. These are the four guys that have come back this season, and I really think that you have a good core four there, right? Where these four guys played last year, they know what they need to do. Dan Stone can kind of, be that stay-at-home defenseman. Dan Wieber can be that stay-at-home defenseman where you got Jesse Anderson and Dakota Bond. They're going to push that puck forward. Now, the Black Bears, this is where I think the biggest competition is that third-line defensive pairing. Is it going to be two rookies, right? You got Cameron Cervoni, Alexander Jurasic, and Nicholas Poyer. And those three guys are going to be fighting for at least two defensive spots. Now, you might mix this up. Maybe you put Dan Wieber with a rookie. Maybe you put Jesse Anderson with a rookie, and you kind of split that up a little bit, right? So you don't have two rookies playing, by themselves, because that could be a defensive liability too. You just don't know until you see these guys in camp. But that's what it's looking like. You got 7 guys. 3 of the guys are probably playing for 2 spots. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Not returning for camp, at least from what I can tell, from what makes sense to me, and this will make sense to some of you guys, or opening night as a player, Liam Anderson. He's going to be obviously over in Europe. Donald Oliveira, even if he does come back and play, that's not going to be decided until middle of November. Connor Smith announced his retirement here on the Power Play Post Show, and Colin Fitzgerald has also announced his retirement. Now, Andrew Logar is a question mark. He has bought a house up in Buffalo and has a full-time job up there, so I don't think Andrew Logar is going to be available, and I believe JT Walters will not be with the organization next year as well. So those are some of the guys that will, some decisions will have to be made on their statuses and whether or not they're going to be, the rights will be held by the Binghamton Black Bears. Now, here are the questions for Coach Sherwood. Do you go with 3 goalies, 10 forwards, or 6 defensemen for 19 players on your active roster, right? That's kind of what he did the majority of last season, and it seemed to be okay. He was able to put things together even when a goaltender may have been off. Now, you also have those 4-game PTOs. How do you work those into the equation as well? It allows you, in a sense, to keep an extra forward or an extra defenseman if you need to or want to, because they can bring something to your team. How do you use those 4-game PTOs? It's like one roster spot, because you get 14 of them. 13 of them? No, 14 of them. You get 14 of them for 56 games, and you can use that. So you can have one player stay the whole season and be on 4-game PTOs. That wouldn't matter. If you didn't keep 3 goalies, do you keep an extra forward or do you keep an extra D-man? All right. Those are questions that he has to think about. And who fills on the power play with Andrew Logar likely not chipping in on that second power play unit with his 10 power play goals last year? We can't talk enough about how good Andrew Logar was on special teams for the Binghamton Black Bears. He also stepped into the center position and could play center for the Black Bears. So that's going to be missing. So that's a guy that you're looking to kind of fill that hole. So it'll be interesting. Now, one of the things that I will say about the extra forwards that they brought in, some of these guys have been assistant captains on their teams, including a couple of the defensemen. You got captains and assistant captains on previous teams, whether it be in juniors or in college, that are coming in here. So these are guys that have leadership qualities, which I think is really cool. So we have some questions going into camp, but every team in all sports, when going into training camps, all have these types of questions. And these are the ones that I can foresee at the moment for Coach Sherwood. Another one might be is that you have Tyson Kirkby as your captain. I think he's going to be your captain going into this upcoming season as well. Obviously, JT Walters is not going to be back, so there's one guy that's not going to be there. Jesse Anderson will be probably an assistant captain again. I foresee that still being the same. Jesse and Coach Sherwood are tight, and I believe he believes that he can help explain the message to the players that Coach Sherwood wants that message put out there, just like Tyson Kirkby. I think trusted confidants is basically how I can explain Jesse Anderson and Tyson Kirkby. Who's that third captain, right? Who's that other assistant captain for the Black Bears? Is it Austin Thompson? Is it Gavin Yates? Is it a Josh Fletcher, maybe? I think Fletch would be a great guy to rally the troops, but also mature him a little bit as well on the ice. No Matthew Ballard. So who's going to be your drop-down, drag-out fight kind of guy? Josh Fletcher? Tyson Kirkby actually fought less last year than he did the year before that when he wasn't the captain. So you have to kind of look at that because there's still got to be some team toughness. And I think the team itself will be tough as well. So very interesting. The roster will take shape in just a few weeks. We'll see what happens in camp. I'm excited to obviously see how and what Coach Sherwood says about his players. I have not talked to Coach Sherwood this summer that much. He's been busy. He's had a lot of cool stuff happen, buying a house, getting married, a trip to Europe, some pretty cool stuff. So we have not talked that much, so I'm looking forward to getting and talking with him during camp and finding out his thoughts on these players that he's brought in. Okay, so one of the things that you're going to hear coming up on the Power Play Post Show is the playoff structure that Andreas Johansson gave to me, this information. We talked on Tuesday before this came out a little bit through Facebook. I got this information from Andreas, and you'll hear this in the interview as well. The playoff structure for 24-25 season, top three teams in each division will get a berth, will be seeded 1, 2, and 3. The fourth and fifth place will have a single playing game, presumably with the fourth place team having home ice. I think that will kind of depend on certain situations. And the winner of that game will be the road team against the top seed. So that was pretty cool information that we got from Andreas, and really appreciate that. I kind of like that, right? Because it still gets 10 teams technically into kind of like the playoffs. Sure, it's really only 8 teams in the playoffs, and then you kind of have a playoff play-in game. I know the AHL has done that in the past. Other leagues have done that in the past. I still like it, though, because it is an extra game for a team to potentially get into the playoffs. And if it's like last year, if you remember correctly, Elmira and Watertown were very close to each other in the standings. And it would have been very interesting to see what would have happened if they had a play-in game to see who won that game to go in and play against the Black Bears in the first round. Just my thought. I think it's a great idea. Now, if any team can win on any day, even teams that are bad, right? So the one thing you don't want in this scenario with the fourth place team and the fifth place team is the fourth place team to have like 20 more points than the fifth place team, but the fifth place team beats them and goes into the playoffs. That's a little bit maybe unjust, but in a league this small where arena availability is tough, and I know everybody wants 7-game series or a 5-game series no matter what throughout the playoffs, it's just not going to happen. Not enough owners are going to make enough money to play a game on a Tuesday or a Thursday or even a Friday. So that's kind of part of that process there. That's the reason why it's 3-game series. And then you got to hope that the arena availability will allow you to have a 5-game final series matchup, which we were able to get last year with Carolina and Binghamton. But unfortunately, or fortunately for Binghamton, they won it in 3 straight. So that's pretty much it for me. Let's get over to our interview with Andreas Johansson. He is the owner of the Binghamton Black Bears. Glad to have him on. I think this is like his 4th time maybe here on the Power Play Post Show, but always good to talk to Andreas. He's he's a really smart businessman and knows how to do what he does really well, which is really manage players, right? It's kind of a little bit of what he does outside of owning a professional hockey team. And so when you manage not just players, but people properly and well, they'll be successful. And that's something that he's done very well. So coming up next here on the Power Play Post Show is Andreas Johansson. We'll be right back right after this.
Hi, this is Don Biggs from the 92-93 Binghamton Rangers.
Hi, this is Brandon Buczynski.
This is Grady Wittenberg, the voice of the Binghamton Senators, and you're listening to the Power Play Post Show.
Here is another Power Play Post Show interview exclusive with Bob Howard.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. As I hinted and, teased a little bit, he is back with us here on the Power Play Post Show. Very excited about it. He is the owner of the Binghamton Black Bears. He is Andreas Johansson. Andreas, welcome back to the show. It's great to talk to you as always.
Bob, it's great to be back. Can't believe the season is just around the corner.
It really is. As we're recording this here on Tuesday, it is only 25 days away until the home opener where the Binghamton Black Bears obviously are going to be celebrating and getting excited about the new season that's started, but at the same time, remembering and celebrating, obviously, what happened. We haven't really talked this summer. I hope you've had a great summer and a great time with the family. But talk about May 10th a little bit more with me. Obviously, a very good experience, and for the city and for the team and for your family as well, being all on the ice after the championship and everything. Talk a little bit. Can you think back a little bit and kind of reminisce a little bit about the championship night?
Yeah, it was a pretty special night. I remember. You remember like certain parts from the game, more than others. I remember us going down early 2-0, right? And I remember. I'm pretty sure it was Gus Ford again, but almost had a third goal. But C-Mac made a great stop. It was maybe 7-8 minutes to go in the first period. And I remember thinking, all right, that might be the turning point. Because if they score there, they might, if they're up by 3, they might hold on and win the game, and we got to play again Saturday night, right? And every game, the pressure would get higher and higher. So I remember that being a turning point. And then, obviously, Ollie's goal right before the break, 2-1. We're feeling pretty good. Matthew's goal that kind of, bounced off. I think it was one of their defensemen and in the net, tying it up. And then, I don't know, I just kind of felt like after that we weren't ever going to lose. Yates, he puts us up 3-2, maybe halfway through the third, right? Mm-hmm. Something like that. Yeah. And I remember going down from the box down to, the corner where the locker room is, and we'll get the empty netter, and, I got my family. There's a ton of people there that, they're around the team, all the equipment guys, everybody was there, and we're celebrating, and people are congratulating us on winning the cup, and then they go down and score. And I remember the last shift felt like it lasted. After Kirk gets that penalty. Yeah. I remember the last shift felt like it lasted so long. I remember I think they had a scoring chance maybe 10 seconds before the end. C-Mac saves it. It goes down into the corner, and we just, I think Weeds and Matthew are down there just kind of eating the puck for the last 10 seconds, and that it's just relief after that. You're so happy, you're so relieved. I think the biggest thing with something like that is it creates kind of like a brotherhood with these players. Like winning the cup is amazing, and the journey that you go on, the adversity that you kind of have to go through. Like, I know everybody looks back and say, hey, you swept the playoffs, and we did. And I'm not taking anything away from what the guys did. It was unbelievable. But at the same time, I think barring the first round, the second game at home against Watertown, I think we always won by just a goal. And that it takes a lot for a group to be able to do that and to come back in a couple of the games. And, when we really had to be good, overtime, game 2 against Motor City at home. You don't win there. Now all of a sudden everything's on the line the next night. Going down to Carolina both nights, taking leads and then kind of letting them back in the game, but still being able to hold on in the end. Like that's what you're going to remember. Mm-hmm. But obviously that specific night was, it's something that we'll always carry with us, you know?
Without a doubt, and the fans were electric. And one of the things that we can talk about is the fact that there's never been a pro hockey game in Binghamton where there was over 5,000 fans in attendance. Obviously, we've talked extensively. You and I have talked extensively about the work that the back office guys and gals do for the Binghamton Black Bears. But for them to be able to find a way to get 5,011 fans into that arena that night, it was pretty special.
Yeah, and I mean we were sold out. I would say 2-3 days before. Like there was no tickets left. You know, there were people coming wanting to buy tickets, and we just didn't have anything. So I think they went and watched it on a TV somewhere, and then they all kind of joined us later on at night when we all went out to celebrate. So yeah, it was an unreal night. Just the atmosphere in the building, because every sellout is great, right?
Yeah.
But there's a difference between a sellout because you have a couple of big groups in there, or it's like a special theme night or something like that where people are showing up and they're having a good time, but they're not necessarily there just for the game. Well, this night was it was all about
the game.
Like there was nothing else going on other than the Black Bears, winning a championship at home.
No, without a doubt. And in the celebration that Monday afterwards, a big crowd. I think everybody was there. I mean, it went like 3 hours long, and that's amazing. There's been this special relationship between you and the teams that you've created in Watertown, and the team and the fans up in Watertown, and then here in Binghamton as well. Now, with Binghamton, obviously, there was already a built-in fan base. Some of them have come back to Binghamton hockey. Some of them may have not and have been a little hesitant about the Black Bears. That's fine. But you guys continuously build and build and build in this special relationship between the team. And we're not talking about just the players on the ice. I mean, Brooks Hill, even Trevor, some of the people off ice still also have a special relationship with the fans. What is it about Binghamton, the fans, or the team that you've kind of put together that has allowed this relationship to just grow so nicely?
Well, I think it's both. Like you said, there was a built-in fan base.
Sure.
Whether we got a ton of fans that used to go to the Devils and the Rangers and the Sens, or whether we had to kind of build our own. I think it's like you say, there's a mix. We have a lot of people that have been coming to hockey for 40, 50 years, and we have a lot of new fans. I think we have a little more, focus on bringing families in, just because our ticket prices are a little bit lower.
Yeah.
But I think it's a mix between a strong fan base and also the organization being kind of very accessible, right? Like the players that we have, to a man, like they're great with the fans. Brandt's great with the fans. Our front office is all young guys that they're all hard workers, but they're also like people. If that's an expression, I don't know.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
And like when we first came in, like I was trying to make myself available because frankly I didn't have any employees, I didn't have any players, right? So I kind of had to. And I think it's kind of, first of all, it's probably the few times where we've had issues with anything. It's kind of allowed us to get through that a little bit easier because we've always been pretty honest about what's going on, and when things haven't gone right, we've kind of tried to tell people what happened and why it went a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
But more, I think for the biggest part of it by far is the players. You mentioned the celebration. We do the Tully's night, the coaches show, post game. Every game, whether we win or lose. Luckily at home we tend to win a lot of the time, right? But the guys are out there signing until the point where the arena, they ring the bell and sound the alarm and make them go back in the locker room. Like that doesn't happen in a lot of places, and a lot of that is the character of the players. I mean, you mentioned Watertown. Like Watertown, it was kind of the same thing. Like you try to get a coach that picks great players, but also great people, right? So I think that's that's kind of what is really behind it. And just the willingness of kind of going out there and trying new things. Even when the schedule's pretty hectic for the players anyway.
Yeah.
They're going out to schools, they're going to events, they're doing whatever they're being asked to do. So I think that's the biggest part of it. It's just the whole organization that's kind of bought into, we're Binghamton's team.
Yeah, when you look at teams that win championships, it is about how owners and GMs manage players and who they select and bring in. And I really do think that you and Brant deserve a lot of credit there because you guys have brought in you sometimes on the staff side, right? Bobby Gross and Trevor and Kelsey and the people in the back. EJ Worth he's brilliant. He's just amazing what he does. And Brooks Hill, very good, right? But then Brant on the GM side, probably working with you a little bit here and there. He picks a lot of the players, but you had relationships with some of these guys like a Gavin Yates and guys like that to be able to bring in. So there is a lot. Can you take some of that credit and realize that you and Brant have a big part into what's happened these last 3 years and specifically even last year?
Well, yeah, I appreciate that. And yeah, of course. I mean, my philosophy ever since I first bought Watertown was to kind of let the hockey side of it be almost autonomous from the business side.
Sure.
I feel like the guys upstairs, I love them. I love Bobby, Trevor, EJ, Brooks, Kelsey, Josh, Alex, everybody. And they've been with us since the first day, right, which makes it all that much more special.
Yeah.
So I feel like when I go in there, there's a lot that I can provide in terms of still some advice on the business side because that's kind of what I've been doing my whole life. Mm-hmm. While my philosophy on the other side has always been get the best coach that you can that kind of sees things the same way that I see it, and then let them do their thing. It doesn't mean that me and Brant don't talk about players. Like he lets me know what's going on, and when there's bigger name players that maybe should get moved or want to be moved, then we talk about what we should do, the pros and cons of it. But,
and let's bring up one name like Nikita Ivashkin. That was one where he had to go. He had to be moved. He was phenomenal for the Black Bears on the ice. Let's be honest. He's one of the top scorers. He played in the most games. For all three of those seasons, everything combined. But that's one where Brant has to come to you and say it's time, right?
Kind of. Nikita was a little bit of a different situation, actually. I love Nikita. He was here day one. I think first season he was by far our best player.
Yeah.
I think second season too, up until he went back to Russia. I think he was our best player. Had he still been here, we maybe could have won already the second season. But he wasn't happy with the ice time that he was getting, and he kind of felt like he wasn't being treated fairly. And I actually agreed with Brant. I think we gave him a lot of opportunity. The league now is a lot better than it was the first season.
Sure.
I would have liked for Nikita to stay, and actually Brant would have wanted Nikita to stay too, but it just got to the point where he didn't really want to be here anymore. And at that point, we had to try to make a move for Nikita, and we wanted to move into a team, ideally, that wasn't, first of all, not in our division, and not a team that we were likely to face, in the playoffs.
Sure.
So he ended up in Blue Ridge, and, I still talk to Nikita on and off. They just had a child, and I have nothing but love for him and what he's done for the organization, but it just got to the point where the team was so good, it was playing so well, and for whatever reason, his production wasn't there.
Yeah. No,
so I supported Brant. I think we're on the same page, even though I think it kind of hurt both of us.
Yeah, and I think what helped probably Nikita going to Blue Ridge was that Josh Newberg was there, and that Coach could call up Josh and say, "Hey, listen, I'm sending Nikita there, so can you look after him a little bit to make sure he gets on his feet?" A lot of people don't know that story. They don't know that a phone call was made and that a conversation was had to make sure that Nikita was taken care of, no matter what went down in Binghamton. People taking care of people. I think that's one of the reasons why I personally like Brant so much. The conversations that I've had with him off ice about players in a way where I know he's got their best interest in mind, as well as trying to improve his career and his chances to move up and to do different things. It's not an easy thing. Did you find getting into owning teams that because I think one of the things that you've done previously before doing all this was helped managing players' careers anyways. Did you find it was going to be difficult to have these kind of conversations where you would have to send somebody away when they'd been with a team for so long?
Actually, not. It's not too bad. I mean, first of all, I rarely have to be the one to have that conversation.
Sure.
Nikita was a little bit different. And it was actually Josh was already there, and also Jimmy Milliken that was with us the first season. So he called me right away and saying, "Hey, I hear you. You're willing to move Nikita. Let's work something out." So he was a big part of putting that deal together on their side.
Sure.
Is it difficult to move on from players? I mean, it is. There's obviously certain guys that have been with you for a long time that have played a big part in the organization, like Nikita, where you don't like to see them go, but at the same time, in this business, you're so focused on the hockey side, you're so focused on results. So you're kind of thinking whatever move we have to make. I mean, it wasn't just Nikita, right? Like Jake Schultz, we had Dustin Jesso was here, who was a great player.
Tommy Ray that had that, whatever breakdown that happened with Tommy Ray as well. So but that's difficult, right? That's not an easy thing, for an owner and a GM. I know technically Brant isn't the GM. He's not titled the GM, but he works in a GM type of role and everything, bringing these guys in and stuff. It's still difficult to have guys you bring in, you kind of really care about, and then have to see them go too.
Especially when they're very popular with the fans. I mean, if you go back, a season and a half, right? We had MJ, and Gavin Abbott, both were local guys. Mm-hmm. Kyle Powell,
Gino.
I'm probably missing a few. Yeah, Gino. Right? Those are tough because the fans are, they want explanations, right? And I get that, but at the same time, there's a lot of things that we can't really say, right? I mean, it's not fair on the player, and it's not something that really should be out there, but there's always a reason why players are let go. Like Brant's the ultimate competitor. We won the championship, but already now, we've kind of not forgotten about it. But it's all about the next season, right?
Yeah.
So like Jesso, for example, I liked Dustin Jesso a lot when he was here, but Brant and Tom came to me with something, and I said, look, ultimately it's your decision. It's ultimately you guys are getting the results, and they made a decision, and it obviously worked out.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. Okay, coming into the off season after you win a championship, is it? It seemed pretty kind of uneventful, right? You strike a deal with Brant to get Brant to come back. You know that right there, that's going to help bring back other players that have played for him. So the head coach comes back, and now you've got 15, 16 returning players to this team. Has this offseason been easier or the same as the previous years for the offseason?
I mean, yeah, it's been easier just because, we kind of we're coming into it both with same coach and also same players, right?
Sure.
I know Brant finished up, the previous season with us after stepping in for Gary, but we kind of knew that we had to clean house on the player side, right? So there were a lot of signings over the summer, a lot of kind of conversation going into camp with, 30, 40 players. While this year, as soon as we agreed with Brant, which was pretty early on in the summer, we kind of knew who was interested in him, and we kind of knew what it would take for him to stay. And obviously, I think he's really happy to be here too. And after that, it's actually been pretty easy. The business side, you're always looking at ways to grow.
Yeah.
we're no different than any other business that we're facing increasing costs a little bit every year. So we've got to find ways to make up for that in terms of revenue. But yeah, I would say, plus, most of the guys in the office, they've been there now. This is the 4th year, right? So it's not like they don't know what they're doing, even if I'm not there. So for me, it's been fine. For them, I would imagine it's been very similar to every other year.
Gotcha. So they'll say difficult. You're saying, pretty easy, which is okay. That's part that's part of it. Colin Fitzgerald retires. Obviously, Connor Smith has decided to hang them up as well. Colin was with the team since the first year, and such. I don't think people understand, and the people that have talked to Colin probably do, fans or anybody that works with the team. This is one of the most happy-go-lucky guys there is that I've met in hockey. Andreas, did I lose you?
Yeah, you lost me for a second there. Sorry. I heard you said he's a happy-go-lucky guy.
Yeah. I mean, what can you tell us about Colin a little bit?
Fitzy. I love Fitzy. I love everything he's done for us. I mean, like you said, from the first day, like I remember he got signed out of it was a joint free agent camp that Binghamton and Watertown did in Chicago, the first year of the Black Bears, and he got signed out of that camp, and he was with us the entire time. Like obviously he was in the SP for a minute, during the 22-23 season. I think I don't know where he was, but he came back then pretty early on, and then this year we kind of didn't have a lot of hope for him coming back. He was dealing with some injuries. He was dealing with not really getting that much ice time, but he was still kind of sticking it out in the SP. And I remember once we finally had a conversation where we could convince him to come back, we were playing in Danbury. And I remember, Brant had to take his own car to the rink because he had to go to LaGuardia, pick up Fitzy, and get him there on time because we couldn't afford for him to miss a game because we only had 15 games left. He needed 15. So if you look at his ice time and you look at the way he played during the regular season, I mean, Fitzy doesn't normally average 10, 12 minutes a night. But I think for many of these games, that's all he played. And it was hardly ever. He would, we wouldn't send him into the corner. He wasn't really killing penalties as much just because we couldn't have him out for even one game. So I remember on the ice after the game, he was one of the first guys, like him and Yatesy, probably the first two guys that I went up to because Fitzy was really here from day one, and I think Yatesy came in. I don't know if he was here for the opener, but he was definitely here
early on.
Yeah, he was here early. Kurtz was here in the first season. Matu came maybe halfway through. So we did have some guys from all the way back then, which was you love all these guys, right? Because we all went through this all together, and we have a much better group now than we ever did before. But of course, it's special for those guys that were here, and they played some games with COVID restrictions, 1,500 fans on a Monday night kind of thing, and now they're going through this.
So, let me ask you a little bit about the new points slotting system that the FPHL is putting into place. There hasn't really been an announcement from the FPHL, but a lot of people have been talking about it. What are your thoughts on this points slotting system, where each team gets 50 points and players are assigned different things depending on what level of hockey they played, whether it be juniors or college or even pro? What are your thoughts on the slotting system?
Well, I mean, first of all, like you said, I don't really even know if it's in place or not or how exactly it's supposed to work.
Yeah.
I mean, we were opposed to the entire mechanism of the slotting system. I think you want to get the league as good as possible. I mean, we're in a great situation now, I think, where we can really leapfrog the FPHL, where it's not, if players don't go to the SP, if they can't make it there, they come to the Fed. I think we're past those days where we have as good of a chance, especially with some of the bigger teams maybe, at recruiting guys straight into the Fed rather than even looking at the SP. But I think my point is we want the league to be as strong as possible. So if we can attract guys that have played in the Coast or played in the AHL, I don't really see why we should be penalized for that. And also there is a huge difference between somebody that's coming straight out of the AHL and somebody that played in the AHL or even the NHL 5 years ago, 10 years ago. They're not going to be the same players.
Or even for 5 or 6 games, right? You know, if someone played 5 games in the AHL, why does that really matter as much?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at, you can look at a goaltender situation, right? I mean, Taylor Joseph has a couple AHL games.
4 games.
I like TJ. I think TJ is a good goalie. He's a great goalie, but should he be rated higher than CMAC that won a championship or Aggie? Like that. To me, if you're going to do something like that, it's really got to be put together very carefully. I'm not really into it. Like, I understand what the league's trying to do. Like, you want to try to keep a somewhat level playing field. Mm-hmm. I just don't think that, we won this year, and you could say Binghamton's the biggest club, the best known club in the Fed, and I wouldn't argue with that.
Sure.
I think the league's getting very, very competitive. I think the new teams in the South, Monroe and Athens, will really make that division very, very competitive together with Carolina, Columbus, and I just think that we won this year. We're probably the largest team, the most popular team. But then the year before, Danbury won, which Billy's a great recruiter, but I wouldn't say that Danbury stands out to other players as a place they absolutely want to go. They just did what we did this year. They had the right players. They had young guys that were hungry to win. The year before that, we won with Watertown, which we had a very, very young team that was very, very well recruited. And they were just the right pieces. So, I'm not sure that putting these restrictions in place or trying to tamper too much with the salary cap, I don't know. I think you got to more focus on who's behind the bench and who recruits the players for you. It's not even about coaching behind the bench as much as it is about finding the right players.
Yeah.
I think that's where the focus should be. If you don't have it, we could go. I think with Brandt and our front office and guys, I think we could go to Delaware tomorrow and maybe the outcome would still be the same.
Yeah.
Would it be a little bit of a different challenge not to have the facilities we have? Yeah, it would be. But I don't think Danbury have those facilities. Watertown, we had one exercise bike. We didn't have a gym. We didn't have any of that stuff. And we still had a great team. So I think it's much, much more about the coach, the opportunity that you provide players, the housing, how you treat your players. I think that's far more important than trying to put these rules in place.
No, I don't disagree with you at all. And will be interesting to see if the Fed actually makes a comment about this. It'll be interesting to see on that. Let me ask you about opening night, October 12th. Other than it being my birthday, which is a pretty awesome day just in itself and everything. Yeah, I know. What can the fans expect on opening the home opener? Because I know obviously you guys are starting up in Watertown on Friday night, but then Saturday the 12th is the home opener. What can fans expect for that night?
I think it will be one last hurrah of honoring all the guys that were here and seeing some highlights from key games and kind of key plays. And obviously from the last night, we'll have a nice video and then honoring the players that are still here with us, obviously, and then also the guys that have moved on. I think we'll celebrate it, get a last good look at the Cup because the league's going to pick it up on the night. And, I think it should really stay here because I don't think we're ever going to hand it back. But and I think it'll be one last kind of warm and fuzzy feeling. But as soon as the puck drops, it's kind of
back to work.
That's all in the past. Putting the banner up there is going to be great, and everybody that comes into the building to play us will know who are the champions. They'll see that up there, and that's great, and it's psychologically important. And I think it means a lot for the new guys that are coming in too, to kind of be an environment of champions.
Yeah.
But I think as soon as the puck drops, it's back to business for 66 games plus playoffs.
The upcoming season sees a couple more teams that the Black Bears are going to play against. Obviously, the league has grown from 11 to 14. Do you expect more teams to be into the playoffs next year? Or do you think they'll have the same similar setup as 8 teams making it in?
Yes. No, it's going to be the top three are going to go through guaranteed, and the fourth and fifth are going to play like a one-game wild card at the highest ranked team, and then whatever team wins there then goes on to play the division winner. Which I think it's fun. Like when the MLB does it, it gets a lot of attention, and it would probably be a Monday or a Tuesday night game anyway, so it's not going to really hold up any of the regular scheduling, and it does allow for a little bit more of an opportunity, just in case four teams were to run away with it in either division. It kind of keeps that, it keeps it going. It keeps an interest from the fans right up until the end, kind of like this year, where it wasn't until the last 40 seconds that we knew that Watertown were getting in and Elmira were not going to make it, right? So I think that's fine. Like I don't really care because I don't expect us to be playing in that game, so I don't really care either way. But I think for the fans and for the people watching on TV, it'll be a nice thing.
When Elmira was pretty much exiting from the league, how important was it for the ownership group down in Hudson Valley to kind of step up and to become a part of this league? They were obviously a part of a senior men's hockey league and everything, won a championship down in the Newburgh area and everything. How important was it for them to come in, not just for Binghamton, but for Watertown and Danbury as well?
Well, I think geographically, obviously, it's great to have as many teams as possible in the Northeast, and also for the players on that team, rather than all getting dispersed, they're all, I don't know if they're all coming back, but they're all still under contract, right, with the opportunity to return. So I think that was good. I think the Elmira situation is a shame. I think the IDA there made a huge mistake. I think this is now the third or the fourth owner that they have in 4 hockey seasons. I mean, they had Robbie, then they had Steve, and then they had Don, I guess, was kind of leading it, and now they moved to a junior team. And the outcome is not going to change because nothing else has changed there. So I think they made a big mistake getting rid of a pro team because I think it would have been a fantastic market. I just think it wasn't ran the right way. And I mean, this last year, I don't fault Don at all because his hands were kind of tied in terms of what he could and couldn't do. So it's a shame, but we're grateful for Hudson Valley stepping up, and we're excited to play them. We always had good games with Elmira, and seeing Josh coming back, as a head coach into the building. I think that's going to be fun, too.
Before I let you go, let's talk about something really fun. You told me a little bit off air that you have a 9-hole golf course at your house. Can you explain to the fans what you built this summer?
Yes. So, it's not 9 holes. It's not 9 different greens, but I have 5 different greens. So obviously, if you vary the tee boxes, you can kind of get. I could make 18 holes if I want. I could probably make it 19 if I use every tee box towards every green, and it goes from shortest hole probably 40, 50 yards. The longest one is probably about 160. Maybe I could move it back a little more if I wanted to. And that's kind of been my summer thing. Like, get out every day in the morning.
Good.
Hit some golf balls, go down to the lake, spend some time with the kids.
Awesome. That's great. Andreas, thank you very much for coming on. I can't wait to see you in a few weeks at the rink. It's going to be a great time, especially on October 12th when the banner gets raised and the cup goes around the ice one more time. Thank you very much. From the fans to you, thank you. We thank you very much for, just building a great organization over the last 3 years and this upcoming 4th season and doing such a great job. The behind-the-scenes guys, the Trevors and the Bobbies and all those guys do such a phenomenal job, but you have led that ship, and we thank you very much for that.
Oh, I appreciate that. It's all love for Binghamton from me. I can't wait for the new season.
Awesome. And we'll be right back right after this, right here on the Power Play Post Show.
You're listening to the Power Play Post Show. Here is another Power Play Post Show interview exclusive with Bob Howard.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. I've been waiting all summer to get this gentleman back on, and I finally had the guts to call him up and say, hey, listen, will you come back on? And he said, absolutely. He comes to us from the Binghamton Black Bears, and normally up in Minnesota, but I think he's back in town already. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes as well. He is Dan Wieber. Dan, welcome back to the show, and I'm just glad to talk to you again.
Yeah, it's a pleasure being back on here. Thank you for what you've been doing throughout the summer. You've been keeping us updated about all my teammates as well. Been listening to those. I know my dad's been busy listening to those. So, I mean, happy to get on and give him a listen.
I appreciate it. Dan, let's talk a little bit about the end of the season. May 10th was a Friday. Maybe not too much was going on in Binghamton, but wait a second, there was a championship game, and it was Game 3 against Carolina. When you started off this season with the Black Bears, or this past season with the Black Bears, did you ever envision that moment when you guys were able to raise the cup?
I mean, it's hard to envision something that I've never been able to do, but I've seen the NHLers raise the Stanley Cup, so I mean, it's definitely something I wanted to do, is raise a cup. And I called my buddy on the way home from Binghamton, and I was just talking to him, and he goes, yeah, you remember like June last year, you said you're going to Binghamton and you're going to win a cup, like you want to win a cup, like you haven't won anything, you really just focused on winning. And so like going into the season, I told Sherwood the same thing. I was like, I really just want to have a winning season. I want to raise the cup over my head. So I mean, that was the goal ultimately. So I want to say I kind of manifested that into my life there, but no, it was a group effort from everyone, all around, everyone. Well, I couldn't ask for better teammates to be doing it with.
Yeah, and Dan, I asked a lot of guys on the show, and I might have even asked you what was the goal for the team this season, and almost every single one of the guys that I asked that question to said, we want to put another banner in the rafters, and you guys are going to be doing that in 24 days.
Yeah, it's what it's going to come down to is how bad do we want it again. We know what it takes. We know how to do it. It's just going out there and executing every day, whether it's practice or game. You be a pro every day. So it's what it's going to come down to is how badly we want it. Sherwood's got the notebooks of secrets that helps us accomplish that every day. So yeah, we have high goals for this season.
You know, the league has expanded from 11 teams to 14 teams, and a lot of times newer teams, they come in, they struggle, they have a hard time. I think Binghamton was a little bit of the rarity in their first season. Rod Davidson and Andreas put together a pretty good team of veterans and whatnot. But you guys have 16 returning players from last year, including a few of the guys like the Scott Ramakers and the Cam Clarks and whatnot. So do you have a good feeling going into the season? And is the toughest thing going to be motivation?
It might be like one of Sherwood's things is no comfy cats. So, I mean, as long as everyone can keep their eyes focused on winning games and being a good teammate, I think we should be fine. I mean, complacency is going to be our biggest issue this year is we cannot get complacent with where we're at or how we're playing. We got to get better every game, no matter if we're winning games or not. I mean, we're out here still trying to get better as hockey players.
Talk about when you guys did win the cup, and you had a lot of family there. You told me you had a lot of family at the arena. There was 5,000 plus fans there. That's never happened in Binghamton hockey history, which was obviously a very awesome thing for the city. But talk about having your family there and how important it was that your dad and your mom were there, but also how much they traveled to Binghamton to see you play.
No, I mean, I'm very thankful for the support my parents have given me through this journey of hockey or my dream of playing minor league pro hockey. And so them being able to drive out, they never flew out, so that's a 17-hour car drive.
Oh my gosh. One
way. So, I mean, I can't imagine going home on Sunday after a weekend of watching hockey is a fun car ride. So I'm thankful they made it to every game. I think they ended up making like 5 games. So them being there for the championship, they knew they wanted to make it as soon as we were like in in contenders of going to the finals. They ended up going to Carolina as well. I mean, they traveled well. They love me. So like, they're coming out, they're supporting me, they're doing everything they can. And my sister ended up coming to the championship. She's in Washington State.
Wow.
So it's just been something like I've been talking about my whole life. It's something I've wanted to been doing, is playing pro hockey. So them coming out and watching me and the Binghamton Black Bears win a championship was unbelievable. They came down on the ice, took pictures. It was an amazing moment for my family and I.
You and I talked a little bit about the construction of the defensive core last year for the Black Bears. 3 or 4 very good puck-moving defensemen, and then a few guys that knew how to stay home and protect the goalie. How important is it to have that proper mix of stay-at-home and puck-moving defensemen?
Oh, they sure did a phenomenal job with recruiting the defenseman he did. He got a handful of each. And then at the end of the season, we found the 6th that'll work. I mean, nothing against the guys that didn't play, but it was just, we were playing well, we weren't losing, and any of those guys I feel like could have stepped in at any moment, need be, and done the role that they were told to do or needed to fill. Like Dakota Bond, very well, puck mover, offensive defenseman, paired with Dan Stone, your shutdown guy, and then all around, like L.A., Wally, Fitzgerald, you're looking at Boilar, all Jesse Anderson, one of the fastest defensemen on the team. I mean, everyone had their role, and they're all really good at it. And so props to Sherwood for finding all those guys and filling them in where they needed to be.
Do you think that Jesse Anderson, who normally would play forward and has played forward much of his career, coming back to play defenseman, do you think it was easier or tougher for him this past season than the rest of you guys?
I think going back, so in my career, I've actually stepped forward or stepped up and played forward, which I found was pretty easy because I played wing and I can just turn my mind off. Like, this is my guy. As a defense, we got to think a little bit more. And Jesse, he's a smart hockey player, so he adapted well. I think what was most tough for him was going back and forth. But once he was consistently playing D, he stepped into the role, did an amazing job.
Yeah. What was your summer like this year? What kind of things did you do to kind of relax, get your mind off of hockey a little bit?
Well, so I spent most of my summer coaching kids at a camp called Minnesota Hockey Camps. But that ran Sunday to Saturday. So my only days off were Saturday nights. And sometimes we just spent them recovering just from dealing with kids 24/7.
Right. Well,
but I got a couple buddies that got cabins on lakes up in that area where I was coaching. So I think twice this summer I made it out to a buddy's cabin where we just kind of sat on the water, caught up. Most of my college buddies I haven't seen since graduating. And I had a couple of weddings this summer. And I just was most recently at the Eagles game this weekend. That was a lot of fun.
Now,
glad football's back in town.
Yeah, now, one of the great things about going to Philadelphia, listen, I've been, since I was 3 years old, a Dallas Cowboy fan. But I went to Philadelphia for a Dallas-Philly game. It was in Financial Lincoln where you were and everything. Great. I've been to both. The Vet, when the Vet was there before they tore that down and everything, and I've been there for a Dallas-Philly game and I was up at the top, and I got to be honest with you, not a bad seat in that place, number one. Number two, the fans for the Eagles games get a bad rap, especially when you're a very polite visiting team fan, right? Like, I went in there, I didn't show all my colors, but sat down next to the guy, said, hey, I'm a Cowboys fan, but, I'm just here to watch the game. You don't have to worry about me. Had great conversations with him the whole time. What was your experience like there? Because it's a beautiful little stadium and everything for a football game.
Oh, little stadium, I don't know about that.
Yeah, fair enough.
Massive stadium. We were in the top row, 209. Could see there wasn't empty. It was a home opener for the Eagles, so there wasn't an empty seat in the stadium. It was loud. It was an amazing time. But I ended up borrowing EJ Worth. He's a office guy for us.
Oh, he loves the Eagles.
Yeah, so I texted him. I was like, "Hey, can I borrow a jersey? I'm not trying to get beat up when I'm at the game." So he was like, "Yeah, no worries," and he was at the game as well. And I didn't end up meeting up with him. It was just doing
it's too busy. It's too big.
Buddies. Yeah, it was packed. But yeah, we got there early, went to a tailgate, and we walk into the tailgate, and there's a couple people just throwing a football back and forth in the parking lot. And we watch this guy dive for a football on the tar, not catch it, somersault, cut his arm up, and he picks the ball up like right in front of us, and he goes, "You guys see that? I almost had it." And we were just like, "All right, dude, let's go." That's the energy we needed, I guess.
Yeah.
So that guy just set the tone for us all game, and we were just excited to be there. We all went out. I went out there with 3 other buddies, and they all went out and just bought Eagles T-shirts the day of. Cause we did not want to get heckled. We were like, we're here to support the Eagles, so we'll dress up for it.
Now, growing up, you were a Vikings fan, I'm guessing?
Yeah, still am.
Yeah.
So when I go to opposing buildings when the Vikings aren't playing, I'll support the home team. Like I went to a Bills game last year when they played the Steelers, I think. Yeah, so I wore a Bills jersey there, and it was a fun game. They ended up not winning, unfortunately, because I really would have loved to see Philadelphia after an Eagles win.
It's pretty awesome, by the way. It's a really good experience. I was there as a Dallas Cowboy fan, but the Eagles won, and the crowd coming out, they were just exciting and fun, and it's a really great complex where you have where the Eagles play. You have Wachovia Center for obviously the 76ers and of course the Flyers, and of course you have the baseball field for the Phillies there, and then you have all these bars all the way around it, bars and restaurants surrounding that whole area. It's an excellent place. It's as a Dallas Cowboy fan, a New York Yankee fan, and a New York Ranger fan, I absolutely have to despise most of the Philadelphia sports teams.
As you should.
But I love their complex and what they've built there for sports. It is absolutely top-notch in this country, in my opinion.
I would have to agree with that. There was that one bar, Xfinity Live, is right there across the street from all of them. So,
Excellent
that
place.
Bar wraps around and holds hundreds of people. So, you get... Oh, it was so fun there. Everybody just chanting, "Go Birds, go! Go Birds, go!" And the whole bar just goes erupted. And then to walk over there, everyone is chanting. It was an electric feeling.
So
definitely a great place to be a NFL, NHL, NBA player.
Yeah, absolutely.
They love their sports there.
I totally agree. Now, I'll tell you kind of a funny story. So my brother is a Denver Broncos fan. We don't know how that happened, but it had something to do with the 70s and the Orange Crush defense. I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan. I have a great story about that I'll tell at another point and everything. But as my nephew was 4 years old, my wife and I and my brother took my nephew and my brother to a Philadelphia Eagles game. This was at the Vet, and it was Eagles against the Arizona Cardinals, right? No big deal. My wife's a Giants fan. I'm a Cowboys fan. We just showed up, and just in regular attire. And we go in the arena. We come out, and our damn nephew is an Eagles fan, and he has been his whole life. And I don't
blame him one bit.
I feel like we pushed him into it, and it's been horrible ever since. And I say that with all love and everything. But that's what happens, right? You're 4 years old, you're 5 years old, you go to a big game like that, you're going to walk out a fan. You just are.
Yeah, that's what the stadium is built for. It's what the atmosphere is. The parking lots all around there were packed.
Yep.
It was a great tailgate experience.
Yeah, without a doubt. So what about training this year? Obviously, you did the hockey school. You were part of the hockey camp. But were you able to get in and do some training with more people your size, so to speak?
Yeah. So some of the other counselors in the camp with me, we would skate during the day when we had free time away from the kids, and I wasn't the smallest guy out there, so it was nice having other people out there my size. Where when it was competition days, we'd get in the corner and I wouldn't be coming out with the puck every time, and so it was good to have competition like that throughout the summer.
Now, the Fed site has you at 6 foot 2 inches, 185 pounds. Are you still 185 pounds? Because I thought you put a little muscle on you during the season last year.
Yeah, I bounce around. I mean, if it's a tough weekend, I'll go down to like 180.
Really?
I'm always around that 180, 185, 190. My weight fluctuates kind of just in that area.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if I weighed myself today, I'd be around like 189, more on the heavy set.
And you're going to want to get yourself down a few pounds when camp starts or by camp starts?
No, by the time camp's over, I think I'll be right where I need to be. Camp is going to be exhausting, so going in with a few extra pounds doesn't hurt me at all.
Okay, so before we get into some this or that questions and everything, I want to ask you this. When you started the season last year, you were clean cut. It looked like we could put a suit on you, and you could go work a day job. At the end of the season, you had hair down to well past your shoulders. You had some sort of facial thing going on. You looked like a freaking rock star that was probably in Motorhead. Are you going to have that at the start of the season, or are you going to be clean cut again?
I don't know. Right now, I got the longer hair.
Yeah.
But I listened to that interview you did with your Turo, where you're like, "Hey, you look like Mongolia at the end of the season."
Yeah, this is true.
I was laughing at that. That was funny. But yeah, I'm not wrong at all. So it's just something me and my roommate Josh Fletcher kind of mentioned. We were like,
yep.
It got to be like January, and we're like, oh, we got long hair. Like, we should just cut it soon. And then we waited a week, waited 2 weeks, and like, let's just wait till the end of this year. And then hair grew out really long, and then playoffs came, and I grew out my little beard I got, my scruff. And then, so right now I got the longer hair and little beard, so I might come in looking a little more mean, but
that's okay. That's okay.
All up to what I decide on the day of. But
no, I understand.
The hair does get long quick, so I do like to keep it short during the early parts of the season. But might have to just keep it trimmed up this year.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. Now, I will say this. Hockey flow is a real thing. People don't understand unless you're a part of it. When my hair was, I could send you pictures of my hair being way too long. And my mom and my father would be like, what is wrong with you? You look silly and everything. But when you get out on the ice and the hair is flowing, it just makes sense. There's a real thing called hockey flow, and people don't understand it unless they're on the ice and everything. And I think it's more about looking good too sometimes, but that's okay. So Dan,
yeah, I agree with you there though. So like, yeah, when I look at myself picture wise, like, yeah. Pictures people take me on the ice. Like, I think I look weird if I don't have hair coming out of my helmet.
There you go.
It's just like a personal thing. So I always like the longer hair in helmets. I know some people don't, so it's just for sure just a personal thing. But I'm definitely more of a long hair in the helmet type of guy.
I don't blame you.
Thank you.
How excited are you for camp coming up?
Oh, I'm very excited. I mean, I moved in with my girlfriend about a couple weeks ago. Just spend some time with her before the season starts, where I have to spend more time with the guys.
Yeah.
So it's definitely been enjoying my little time off. But I mean, I've been calling a lot of my buddies, and they're just like, yeah, I'm moving in this day. I was like, oh, I get a little butterflies in my stomach, and I'm just excited to see my boys again.
Yeah, you sound like a 12-year-old kid who's getting ready for hockey season, and that's not a knock on you. You are that truly excited about this upcoming season.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So, like, some of the guys on the team last year are going to be, like, some of my best friends. They're awesome. I love the guys, and hockey aside, just seeing them again is going to be exciting.
So who were the guys?
Being able to be on the ice with them is another thing.
Who were the guys that you roomed with again last year?
Josh Fletcher and Connor McNanama.
Now,
so I'm excited. I play video games with those guys as often as I can.
Even during the summertime?
On the mics all summer long.
Yeah.
Keeping tabs on those guys.
That's pretty awesome. And Connor McNanama, he's still that quiet guy, but can get that snarky little comebacks, right?
Oh, yeah. He's not the guy that's going to say the root of the joke, but he'll be chiming in, and it'll be a good laugh.
That's awesome. All right, so let's have a little fun here, and let's do a little bit of this or that. Now, some of the fans that are listening will probably recognize maybe some of these this or that's, if they have done them on social media or Facebook and everything. But we'll have a little bit of fun with this, and if you have anything comical to say about either or whatever, that's cool too. Okay, so
all right. I'm unaware of what's happening, so let me just go in blind here and see what happens.
Perfect. All right. So we'll start off with an easy one, right? And the first one is playlists or podcasts. What do you listen to more, playlists or podcasts?
Overall, it's definitely got to be playlist. If I'm going for a longer drive or anything like that, I like to listen to podcasts. There's a good Dak Shepard podcast,
yep.
And then those are probably my main ones, or Wet Jeans, and then Barstool, and then you got, short drives, anything under an hour, I got playlists just going. Or I like to do phone calls, too. I'll drive and just kill time, catch up with people.
No, that's good. That's good. That's good. Okay, here's one that might be a little silly, may not. Shoes or slippers? See, you're laughing.
I'm a slippers guy. Slippers guy all the way. Yeah.
No, I wouldn't have guessed that. I immediately thought, I'm going to ask him this question. He's going to say, oh, shoes, definitely shoes.
Oh, yeah. When I'm in the house, I got a pair of cozy slippers. And then when I leave the house, I got a pair of Birkenstocks. Those like sandals with the cork on them. And I don't know if you know them at all, but they're just sandals. So if I don't have to wear tennis shoes or anything, those are my shoes I'll wear 90% of the summer.
So it's kind of funny because I'm not a slippers guy, but I have slip-on Converse shoes. Like they're just where you can just slide right into them, and they're made by Converse and everything, and they have different styles and everything. But that's what I like. It's weird. It's like I don't really care for slippers that much, but I like those slip-ons. And unfortunately, I've caught myself at the grocery store accidentally with them on. Like, oh shit, I forgot to take them off and put real shoes on and everything. So
put your hood up and hide. Don't let people see me.
Yeah, exactly. All right. How about pork or beef?
Oh, I'm gonna have to go beef here, just because I think tacos might be like one of my favorite foods, and just a good beef taco you can't go wrong with. And then, just beef all the way.
Yeah, I had beef tacos tonight, actually, for dinner. So
I'm jealous. I just had some wings, so.
Yeah, no, it was good.
Too,
all right, swimming pool or beach? Now, I have to imagine it's probably beach, right?
I mean, it depends what the beach has. If the beach has got a beach volleyball court or a raft you can swim out to and hang out at, but if it doesn't have any of that, I'd rather take my swimming pool and do some jumps and flips. Maybe swimming pool's got a diving board.
Sure.
But I do love the beach, putting your toes in the sand and then just swimming out. But if I have to choose anything with the water, it'd just be driving a boat out there and just anchoring and just sitting out there and jumping off the boat.
Okay, all right.
That's a big common thing for us Minnesotans.
Yeah, I can imagine that. Listen, us here in upstate New York, when we lived in the country, a lot of people would just jump into ponds, even though we didn't know what was at the bottom of the pond. We'd put a rope as high up in the tree as we could over the pond, and then just kind of like go flying into it. And
hey, that's good summertime fun, and no matter where you are,
I agree.
A rope, a tree, and a lake.
Yeah.
You can be out there all day.
Now, fruits or vegetables? Now, vegetables are supposed to be more healthy than fruits because fruits have natural sugars in them. But what do you prefer?
Neither.
I like it. All right.
No, I'm not a fruit guy by any means. I think raspberries and strawberries might be the only fruit I really eat.
Right.
But vegetables, I got nothing against. But neither of them are something I'm going to be picking up in a grocery store.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, here's one that is going to divide people 100% down the middle. You can't be both, and then unfortunately you have to pick one. Cats or dogs?
My girlfriend's going to hate this answer because she's got a cat.
Oh,
but I'm a dog person all the way.
Okay, all right.
I love my dogs. Even I had a cat in college too, but I think I got to go with dogs. Dogs are more my speed.
All right. Well, hopefully she doesn't listen to the podcast, and she knows.
No, I'm not going to let her.
Fair enough. Okay. All right. Summer or winter? Now, this is a tough one because what you do for a living, essentially, right now still, is in the wintertime. But it sounds like you love the summer, too.
Yeah, I really do. It's being able to go out on the lake in the summer is, I mean, that's really the only joy of Minnesota, besides playing hockey, is the summertime lakes. But I do love winter. I have no problem with the ice and snow. I love hockey, which fits right in. But when I was younger, we'd go snowmobiling all the time. Skiing is a blast. And so, yeah, it definitely winter for me.
All right. How about this one? Farm or city?
No, I'm a farm guy for sure. I grew up on 40 acres. I love doing the four-wheeling, and I get anxiety if I have to drive in a big city. Like I drove into the depths of Philadelphia this weekend, and my anxiety was through the roof. I don't know what's going on.
Did you drive, or did one of your buddies drive?
I drove. They all flew in from Minnesota, and I was in the I guess one guy drove down. He is in college on the East Coast in Connecticut, so he drove as well.
Okay.
But, yeah, the rest of them flew right in the Uber to the hotel where I had to try to not kill anybody on the road.
All right. Let's see here. Driver or passenger? Do you prefer to drive?
I'd like to be driving all the way.
Yeah.
If I sit in the passenger seat too long, I might fall asleep, and then next thing you know, I prefer driving. I like to be in control.
Yep.
And I think I'm a good driver. I mean, everyone probably thinks they are a good driver. So.
Yeah, but you grew up on a farm, and you were probably either on a tractor at the age of 12 or 11 or on a four-wheeler at a really early age, because I grew up on a farm, and I was on a tractor when I was 10, 11, 12 years old.
I didn't quite grow up on a farm. We had a field, but we rented it out. But we had four-wheelers that I was driving at the age of 6, 7. We had a small one for me, and then as I got bigger, I got a bigger one. And then we go off-roading all the time. My dad and brother and we go off-roading, so that's where a lot of my driving skills I feel like come in. But I don't use all of them on the road.
Movies or TV shows?
Oh.
Doesn't sound like either.
No, I'm a big fan of both.
Yeah. So
yeah, I mean,
do you binge
movies
watch
down
TV?
as my answer.
Oh, okay. Do you binge watch like streaming and stuff like that?
I do. I just finished Suits on Netflix.
Yeah,
that is a phenomenal show. I love that. And Breaking Bad. That was a big one when I was younger. And then Trailer Park Boys, I Can Never Go Wrong. Seinfeld, I watched all the way through this year. But yeah, I do love my movies. I love the Avengers and all the Marvels. And then Netflix always has got some good Mark Wahlberg or Will Ferrell movies on it that you can't go wrong with.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, a couple more of these and then we'll be done. How about dine in? How about dine in or dine out?
I didn't dine out that much as a kid, so I would have to say dine in. My mom's cooking's got to be some of my favorite meals ever.
Do you cook? Do you cook though?
I'm gonna go with no, because no, that is another thing that my girlfriend likes to take care of. So she's like, "You can step away from the kitchen." I'm like, "All right, I'll help if you need me."
So you did not learn anything from your mom in the kitchen then?
No, my sister took all those skills.
Okay, fair enough. How about waffles or pancakes?
Oh, that's a toughie.
You know
I think I like waffles, the Belgian waffles, the big ones, and then I guess Eggo waffles you can just throw right in the toaster. They come out 2 minutes later, crispy, and yeah, I'm gonna go waffles on that one.
So you're back in town. Your girlfriend might know about this. There's a place called the Broadway Diner in Enwell, okay, and they have a waffle breakfast that you can get, which is waffle with a ton of ice cream on it and chocolate sauce. It's like a sundae. It's a waffle sundae. I'm telling you, man, if you just want a cheat day, just one day this year, have her take you to the Broadway Diner and get that waffle sundae. I actually, the first time I had it, I had to take a picture of it, and I was like in love. It was like one of the best things I ever ate. It was so good. It was so good.
Well, if you drive by there tomorrow, you might find me there.
No,
talk me into it.
Yeah, tell her about the Broadway Diner and that. She'll probably know the Broadway. She knows probably where it is and everything. If she's especially from this area, and she'll take you there. It's really good. I love it. So
I'm excited. You got me excited for tomorrow now.
You should definitely go. And if you get one, send me a picture of it. I want to see it and everything.
All right, I will.
Sweet or salty?
I'm going to go sweet.
Mm-hmm.
I like Sour Patch Kids.
Me too, actually.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorites.
Starburst.
Okay, yep. I've got... All right, okay, when it comes to Starburst, which flavor is your favorite?
Pink.
The strawberry, okay.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, you mentioned strawberries before, so that makes sense. All right. Last one that we're going to do, trucks or cars?
I got to go cars.
Really? Okay.
I mean, I love like the capabilities of trucks. Like I haul stuff all the time. My mom has a truck, so I always end up driving her truck whenever I need to do stuff. But there's some fast cars out there that I like to drive.
Now, this is not a redneck joke, but you know that you're from Minnesota if your mom drives a truck. It's not a redneck joke. It's just literally a fact. A lot of women in Minnesota, Michigan, they drive trucks.
Well, I mean, my mom now she has a Jeep that she drives during the summer. So she's got a Jeep in the summer and then a truck during the winter, just like for snow capabilities when the roads are bad. She just feels significantly safer in it. So when Dad's like, yeah, not going to argue that one.
Dan, how excited are you to not just see the banner get raised and that celebration, but to be around the fans again? Binghamton has, and I've said this for well over 20 years, especially on this show, I feel that Binghamton has some of the best minor pro hockey fans in all of the country. I know the Hershey Bears have great fans down there in the AHL, and we were in the AHL for a very long time. There are some great fans out in Cleveland with the Cleveland Monsters, the Lake Monsters. But talk to me a little bit about the fans and how they received you guys last year and the kind of the excitement to come back and see them again.
It makes the whole experience here, or being a player in Binghamton. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, besides like our facilities, it's the coaching, the players, like the fans make it what it is. Mm-hmm. So for us to be able to come back and do the banner raising, and like afterwards we did a big signing with the cup, and like photos with the cup and players signing stuff out there. I mean, I think we were out there for an hour, and I didn't move one spot. I just had a line of fans. Just, can you sign this? Can you sign this? It was heartwarming. It really makes being a player in Binghamton worth it. I mean, it makes it excited, makes us want to come back. I never played in front of 5,000 fans. Like, maybe in the state tournament for Minnesota, there might have been 5,000 people there, but the difference is you have 5,000 people there just watching hockey, because that's what you do. Like, there's no way 5,000 people are coming from your high school. But where here, you have 5,000 people cheering you on, rooting for you. So that was the big difference. Like, coming here and playing versus playing in a big arena in Minnesota is, like, these fans love you.
Yeah.
And, like, it shows, like, I've peek in the fan book page or Facebook fan page every so often and just see, like, everyone's loving your post and they're excited about the re-signings and just, like, the way the fans are up to page. They might even know more than me at some point during the summer about what's going on with the team. But, yeah, it's amazing to be able to come back and have that support from 5,000 people that just want nothing but good news for you and, like, good hockey. So, like, us going out all summer training to give those fans what are the best that we can give them means a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for that first game, the banner raising. I'm not sure if my parents are going to be able to make it, but they'll definitely be watching if they're not. So, I mean, it's definitely a big event for all of us.
the relationship that the players have with each other is evident. We've covered that last year on this show, and even during the summertime, talking to everybody. LA was back on the show, and all the different guys that have been on again a second time or a third time. But can you talk a little bit about your relationship with Coach Sherwood? Because there are two different types of coaches in the world. There's a player's coach, and then there's an asshole that coaches you. And you kind of sometimes have to draw the line between being just a player's coach and then sometimes being that a-hole that has to put you in your place. I don't think Scherzy has tapped into that level of being a coach yet, because everybody seems to really love him and everything. When I talked to him a little bit after the end of the season, he was pleasantly surprised that he got some not criticism, but, hey, you could have been a little bit harder on us and everything. Tell me a little bit about how Scherzy was with you guys last year, because he's young enough to still be playing if he wanted to.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even during the season, when we didn't have our Monday practices, it would just be optional ice. Sherwood would put on his full gear and come out there and school us. He definitely lets us know that he could be playing at this level, and he definitely still could be playing if he wanted to. And so just to be able to see what he's coaching us with, and know that he knows what he's talking about, definitely doesn't bring any critical feedback from us. We see him be as good as a hockey player as he is, and then we're wow, maybe we should listen to that. Or so in the aspect of him being an asshole or a player's coach, I definitely think he was more the player's coach. Just I had a great relationship with him. He never lied to me. That was a big thing about coaches in my past. They'll just tell you what you want to hear, and then as soon as you're here, they just kind of shove you aside. Where he brought me in, and he never told me anything more than what was realistic for me. It's I didn't have high expectations of being on the power play because we have guys that should be on the power play.
Right.
I didn't earn that yet, and that's his thing. Is you got to earn your spot.
But do you think
so? It's just a lot of respect
yeah.
that we have for him is why he never really had to be the asshole that some coaches are.
Yeah. Do you think you grew at from the start of the season to the end of the season? Do you think you grew as a player and even as a man a little bit?
For sure. Through his coaching styles, you just kind of learn. I talked to him a lot throughout the season, and not even just Sherwood. You talk to Kirkby, Don Oliveri, Jess Anderson, JT Walters. Those guys have been in the league for years.
Yep.
And you just talk to them about their experiences and how they dealt with it. So you just kind of be oh, I don't want to be like that, or be oh, that's a good tool. I'm going to add that to my perspective of seeing things. So. But Sherwood definitely did get honest. I'm not going to leave that out of there. There are games where, when we went on our losing skid at the end of this, before playoffs, we were down games or losing games. We lost to Watertown twice in Watertown, and Sherwood came back, and he was definitely not anybody's friend.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's
coming
funny
into that locker room.
It's funny too.
He has both sides.
Yeah, it's funny too because Fletch told me that Connor McAnanama basically said, "I'm not losing again. That's it. I'm done. I'm done losing," and he didn't lose again. So the rest of the season,
it was just that mentality where you know what, this is a joke of us losing. So it's either go nut up or shut ups, and that's exactly what we did. We nutted up, and we just stuck to. Everyone just bought it in those last 17 games.
Yeah.
Including playoffs.
It was pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. Dan, thank you very much for coming back on the show. I can't wait to see you in camp. I'm going to be there for a few of the days, being able to watch you guys just get ready, and just really excited about this upcoming season. I think the Black Bears, with so many players coming back, are going to be just another great season. 39 wins last year. I'm hoping you guys can hit 40 this upcoming season. I think that's
you and me both.
I think it's obtainable. I really do.
I agree.
So I think it's going to be great. So, Dan, thank you very much for coming on. Appreciate it. We'll have you back on again and during the summer or during the season. It's the summer right now.
Yeah,
almost.
Of course, yeah.
Almost the end of the summer. Only a few more days.
So you're going to have me on next week, too?
Yeah, because next week will be fall. So I should get you on for every single season. and everything. But
you can hit all of them.
Get them all in and everything. Dan, thank you very much for coming out. I appreciate it.
Of course, Bob. Thank you for everything you do.
All right, and we'll be right back right after this, right here on the Power Play Post Show.
If you're a Binghamton hockey fan, then you need to check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your news, stats, information, the Binghamton Hockey Hall of Fame, top 10 lists, profiles, and so much more. That's binghamtonhockey.net. You're listening to the Power Play Post Show.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. Thank you very much for listening. I really appreciate it. I had a great conversation with Andreas Johansson and, of course, with Dan Wieber. If you didn't check out on Wednesday's home opener countdown, I posted Trevor as our home opener as he was raising the cup. I want to send a special shout out to all the back office people that work with the Binghamton Black Bears. They do a phenomenal job, from EJ, Kelsey Lane, Trevor, Bobby Gross, Alex Jones, getting all of you into the arena to pack the house. There were 8 sellouts last year, 7 in the regular season, 1 in the playoffs. For all you fans, those guys really work hard to pack those stands with, and of course the players do a great job entertaining you, and you come back. But honestly, whenever you need anything, those 7 people in the back office do such a phenomenal job, and we want to pay credit to them as well. That's why I put Trevor up there as Wednesday's home opener countdown picture. And again, thank you very much, everybody, for listening. The Power Play Post Show is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, YouTube, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Just search for Power Play Post Show on whichever platform you listen to your podcast, and please subscribe. We see that, and we know that you're subscribing, and we really appreciate that. Please join the Power Play Post Show Facebook group. Just go to Facebook and search Power Play Post Show and share with any of your friends. Please check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your hockey information and curiosity. And if you don't know, don't forget, single game tickets are available for the Black Bears. Go get your tickets. Get there for that home opener. And thank you to Rob Lepolis, our MC, John Patitucci, our musical director, as well as Andreas Johansson and D-Man Dan Wieber. I am Bob Howard. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next week right here on the Power Play Post Show.
Thanks for listening to this edition of the Power Play Post Show. Be sure to tune in next week to the Box Studios Radio Network for all the latest Black Bears news and interviews from around minor league hockey. The Power Play Post Show would like to thank John Patitucci for all the music you hear on the show. You've been listening to the Power Play Post Show.